When Dahlia collapsed in a pool of blood, Willow, her mother, was happily accompanying another man's daughter shopping for Christmas presents. The three of them were laughing and chatting, looking like a warm and loving family. When I, Silas, knelt beside Dahlia, wailing in despair, she merely glanced at me with indifference, not a trace of sadness on her face. In that moment, I felt utter hopelessness, regretting that I brought Dahlia out for Christmas, and even more regretting that I didn't stop Willow from snatching the doll from Dahlia's hand and giving it to Vaughn's child. Willow would place all the blame on me, making everyone believe that I killed Dahlia, that I was an irresponsible father. Vaughn secretly stole Dahlia's ashes, letting his daughter scatter them in the pig pen. "Silas, you're utterly useless," Willow sneered. "Your acting career is a joke, and you can't even take care of the child with my money. Why don't you just die?" I stared at them, clutching the empty urn tightly, and said coldly, "If I die, who will be here to see you reap what you sow? I'll make you kneel before Dahlia and beg for forgiveness." "Willow, Christmas is tomorrow. Could you possibly pick up a gift for Dahlia when you get off work tonight?" Silence lingered on the other end of the phone before a frigid voice replied, "The company is holding a gala tonight. You can buy her 2 gifts. Dahlia's old enough. She shouldn't even be celebrating Christmas. She should be more mature." Before I could speak, Willow hung up, and my heart sank. I sighed softly. Dahlia, hearing this, immediately drooped, lowering her head to mutter, "Daddy, Mommy's too busy at work. Why don't you take me to buy a doll? And get Mommy her favorite cake?" My heart ached for Dahlia. I held her little hand tightly and walked towards the department store. As soon as Dahlia walked inside, she excitedly tugged at my arm, pointing to a spot not far away and saying happily, "Daddy, that's Mommy. She's picking out my favorite doll. She must be planning a surprise for me." With that, she let go of my hand and ran towards them, calling out, "Mommy." I looked up and saw a girl of about the same age as Dahlia run into Willow's arms. Then, a man walked up to her and put his arm around her shoulder. Dahlia stopped abruptly, staring at them blankly, her eyes welling up with tears. I quickly walked up, took Dahlia's hand, strode up to them, and said calmly, "Willow, weren't you supposed to be at a gala tonight? What are you doing here? And who are these 2? Willow, not expecting me and Dahlia to be here, looked flustered for a moment, but calmly introduced them to me. "This is Director Vaughn, from one of our client companies. This is his daughter, Stella. I'm helping them shop for Christmas gifts. Hello, I'm Vaughn Lancaster. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've always imagined that a successful woman like Ms. Song must have a supportive partner behind her. Seeing you today, it's clear that I was right." I smirked, catching his insinuation, but not wanting to make a scene in front of the children. At that moment, Dahlia and his daughter started arguing over a doll. Dahlia said she picked it up first, but the little girl said Dahlia was snatching it from her. Both little girls were crying and screaming, neither willing to give in. Just as I was wondering what to do, Willow quickly stepped forward, snatched the doll, and handed it to Stella gently. "Don't cry, Stella. This doll belongs to you. Auntie will discipline her later, okay?" I was stunned. I never expected Willow to be so biased towards that little girl. Hearing her mother say this, Dahlia's eyes instantly welled up with tears, but she still explained, with a voice that was calm, "Mommy, I picked up this doll first." She saw it and snatched it from my hand. Willow glanced at Dahlia with disgust, saying impatiently, "Stella is a month younger than you. Shouldn't you know to let your younger sister have it? All dolls look the same anyway. Buy another one. Why are you so selfish?" I couldn't listen any longer. I quickly stepped forward and put my arm around Dahlia, asking loudly, "You know they all look the same. Then why did you have to snatch the doll from Dahlia's hand? How do you know Dahlia isn't lying?" As soon as the words left Willow's lips, Dahlia calmly asked, "Are you my mother?" Then struggled out of my arms and ran outside. Stella followed her. I glared at Willow and turned to chase after her. But when I caught up, it was already too late. After screeching tires, Dahlia lay silently in the middle of the road, blood pooling beneath her. "Dahlia!" I yelled her name and scrambled on my hands and knees to Dahlia, calling in terror, "Dahlia!" She opened her eyes slowly, barely managing a smile, and whispered, "Buy cake," before closing her eyes tightly, unresponsive to my calls. As I frantically dialed the emergency number, I saw Willow look at us coldly, then put her arm around Stella and walk away, laughing and chatting. The child clutched the doll that Dahlia had longed for. "Silas, I give you so much money every month. Is this how you take care of the child? How could something happen right under your nose? What good are you?" I knelt numbly on the ground, burning paper money for Dahlia, letting Willow stand next to me, scolding me condescendingly, my heart growing colder and colder. Then, the same doll appeared in front of me. I looked up and saw Vaughn, his face full of regret, looking at me. "I didn't know Dahlia would do something like this for a doll. I'm very sorry. I've already talked to Stella, but the child is still young. It's not appropriate to bring a child to such an occasion. Please understand. Give this doll back to Dahlia. I hope it'll bring her joy in heaven." I ignored him, continuing to burn paper money and light incense. Willow immediately pushed me hard, scolding loudly. "What kind of attitude is that? Dahlia's death has nothing to do with Vaughn. Why are you throwing a tantrum? 80% of this is your fault. You don't deserve to be Dahlia's father." I laughed coldly, slowly standing up and looking directly into her eyes, saying softly, "Dahlia said she picked it up first, but you said she was lying. When she was lying in a pool of blood, you were laughing and chatting with another man's child." "Willow," Dahlia asked if you were her mother. "Why didn't you answer?" Her face turned ashen instantly, and she said through gritted teeth, "How would I know this child had such a bad temper? The company is about to go public. If the media finds out about this, it'll affect the company's image." "Enough. Dahlia wasn't trying to kill herself. It was because your favorite cake shop is across the street. She was rushing to buy it for you." Willow looked at me with surprise, a hint of remorse on her face, but she was interrupted by Vaughn. "Mr. Sterling, this is called moral blackmail. You're deliberately making Willow feel guilty. She's usually very busy with work. How would she know what Dahlia was thinking? As Dahlia's father, you should be reflecting on yourself." With that, he took Willow's hand, his gaze firm. "Willow, don't be afraid. I'm here for you." Willow flushed and shyly lowered her head. "Vaughn, thank you. I don't know what I would do without you." Seeing these two declare their affection for each other at Dahlia's funeral, I trembled with anger, roaring, "Get out of here! You too! Don't disgust my daughter." Willow chuckled and leaned her head on Vaughn's shoulder, sneering at me. "Silas Sterling, don't act innocent. Dahlia's accident is your fault. So, I've decided to divorce you, and I'm demanding that you leave with nothing." I laughed coldly, saying calmly, "All right. As long as you admit that you're having an affair, I'll agree." Willow naturally wouldn't agree, glaring at me fiercely. "Silas Sterling, what are you now? You think you can bargain with me? I have plenty of time. We'll see." After she and Vaughn left, my sturdy spine instantly collapsed, and I covered my mouth, crying silently. I looked at Dahlia's portrait, asking myself again and again if Dahlia wouldn't have had an accident if I had run faster. But no matter how much I blamed myself, Dahlia wouldn't come back, wouldn't be begging me to buy her ice cream. I spent 2 days and a daze at the funeral home. Willow didn't come again, until the day of the cremation, when she arrived in a black dress, without makeup, bringing a group of reporters with her. Today is the day of my daughter's funeral. I'm very grateful that everyone could come to send her off. As for the driver, because my daughter was jaywalking, I won't press charges. As parents, we bear a great responsibility when a child has an accident. We won't run away from it." With that, she bowed deeply to everyone, her eyes red. When she straightened up, she was already in tears, and the reporters were taking pictures frantically. I watched coldly as she cried in front of those cameras, not bothering to expose her, just wanting Dahlia to leave in peace. Who knew that she would suddenly change the subject, pointing the finger at me, choking with sobs. "Silas Sterling, I know I'm usually busy with work and haven't spent enough time with you and our daughter, but Dahlia was our love's child. I did go to a gala that day, but Director Vaughn's child wanted to buy a gift. As a valued client of our company, Of course I had to do my best, but I didn't expect that you would misunderstand me and Director Vaughn have a relationship. As soon as she said this, she burst into tears, turning and kneeling before Dahlia's memorial tablet, lamenting. Dahlia, it's Mommy's fault. I'm sorry. Don't blame Daddy for not taking good care of you. Blame Mommy for not spending enough time with you. You shouldn't have run into the street in a fit of pique. What about the families if you hurt the innocent? Some reporters, moved by Willow's words, cried out, and some even went up to comfort Willow. I took a deep breath, suppressing my anger, and said loudly, Everyone, today is the day of my daughter's cremation. I hope you will stop disturbing her. Ms. Song, you and I know the truth, but please don't let Dahlia leave feeling uneasy. Hearing this, Willow looked at me angrily and asked, Weren't you by Dahlia's side when she left? If you had educated Dahlia properly, how could she have become so willful? This marriage is over, and I'm taking Dahlia's ashes with me. Watching her self-righteous appearance, I sneered, mocking, Willow, you should be an actress. You'd definitely win an award. She raised her eyebrows and immediately retorted, Silas Sterling, that's your old profession. Isn't acting your specialty? But you've been a bit part actor for so many years and haven't made it anywhere. If I didn't work hard, what would you and Dahlia eat or wear? Hearing her words, the reporters turned their attention to me, looking at me with surprise. Indeed, I used to be an actor, but after marrying Willow, I chose to retire and take care of the family. I didn't expect that what I did to care for her back then would now become a point for her to attack me. I looked around and said in a deep voice, If you don't leave, I'll call the police. Every media outlet will be exposed. After I said that, they quickly left Dahlia's funeral home, leaving Willow looking at me with a knowing smile. Silas Sterling, look at the way you are now. Who would believe you? I advise you to sign the divorce papers obediently. I'll give you $3 million considering all that you've done over these years. Don't be greedy. How many years would it take you to earn $3 million? She chuckled, casually glanced at Dahlia's portrait, and said softly, Dahlia, hate your father if you're going to hate anyone. Don't come looking for me. I didn't want you to begin with. Silas Sterling insisted on bringing you into this cruel world. Now that you've left, then good riddance. With that, she gave me a provocative smile, put on her sunglasses, and turned to leave. Watching her receding figure, I clenched my fists tightly, my eyes filled with hatred. I never expected that Willow hadn't wanted Dahlia at all. She had said she was happy to have a child with me. It had all been a lie. Suddenly, my phone kept ringing. I took it out and looked at it, my eyes widening in shock. Former actor Silas Sterling kills his own daughter to get revenge on his wife. All my past was dug up, and even my old headshots were posted, and netizens were discussing it intensely. Who is this person? Never heard of him. He even bought a trending search for this? So shameless. How dare he post it when he's this obscure? Was the censoring department on drugs? Willow also opened an account and posted a video, with her and Vaughn sitting side by side. This is Vaughn Lancaster, the director of Lancaster Holdings. I specially asked him to help me record this video, hoping that Silas Sterling would stop misunderstanding. I'm also very saddened by Dahlia's death, but I also have to be responsible for my clients/company. Now I just want to divorce Silas peacefully and have no more entanglement. In the video, she looked haggard, her eyes swollen and red, looking very pitiful. Vaughn didn't say a word from beginning to end, just watched her silently with eyes full of love and sympathy. After the video was released, some netizens felt sorry for Willow, but more of them were obsessed with their relationship. Although Song and Sterling haven't divorced yet, I really love Song and Lancaster. Can the two of them start dating later? How could Silas Sterling be compared to director Lancaster? Willow, hurry up and get a divorce and find the next chapter in your life. I didn't respond to these things. I kept looking through the comments and private messages, which were full of ridicule and insults. Suddenly, I received a message from my previous manager, Andy. Mr. Sterling, the company knows there must be something wrong with this matter. They specifically asked me to greet you. By the way, do you have any thoughts on making a comeback? It's good to use this opportunity to get famous. I didn't expect that the first person to extend an olive branch to me at this time would be my former company. After a moment of thought, I smirked and immediately replied, Andy, I understand the company's intention, but overall, you must listen to my ideas. The company agreed, and I immediately posted a status update on Weibo. Thank you very much, Ms. Song, for the traffic. I will cherish this opportunity. Let me announce that I am back. After I posted it, the abuse continued, but my name was on several trending search lists. Perhaps Willow hadn't expected me to do this, and she immediately started writing a small essay online, questioning why I hadn't taken care of Dahlia properly. Because the accident location was in a blind spot, I was worrying about what to do next when someone sent me a video. I zoomed in frame by frame and found a terrible truth, taking a screenshot and posting it online. I would like to ask what this girl was doing with her hand at the time, and this girl looks a little familiar. She seems to be Director Lancaster's daughter. This instantly sparked intense discussions among netizens, and some people analyzed the video themselves. At this time, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I'm Von Lancaster. Come at me, don't hurt my daughter. How much money do you want? Name your price. I chuckled twice and said casually, Director Lancaster is so generous, but do you think I'm doing this for money? He was silent for a long time, then said in a deep voice, Let's meet if you're free today. No problem. I also have something I want to say to you. After hanging up the phone, Willow also kept calling me. When she saw that I didn't answer, she sent a text message. Silas Sterling, what exactly do you want to do? Are you crazy? Delete it quickly, or you won't get that 3 million. Stella is still young. How could she do such a thing? Don't slander people. I sneered and blacklisted her phone number. Then I went to the cafe to meet Vaughn. When I arrived, Vaughn was sitting at the table with a gloomy face, with a handbag next to him. Director Lancaster is so early. Have you been waiting anxiously? Don't look at me like that. It wasn't your daughter who was in trouble. Seeing me come over, he quickly put on a smiling face and said with a smile, Mr. Sterling, I heard that you were preparing to come back. Congratulations. This is my gift. I hope you will accept it. I raised my eyebrows and joked. Director Lancaster also knows how to bribe people, but I'm very sorry. I've already handed the video over to the police. The next moment, Vaughn angrily raised his fist and punched me in the face, roaring loudly, Silas Sterling, are you looking for death? Vaughn and I were taken back to the police station, and soon Willow hurried over. What exactly happened? Vaughn, are you okay? She looked at Vaughn's face with concern, ignoring me as if she didn't know me. I sneered and chuckled, mocking, Don't worry. Your Vaughn hasn't lost a single hair. He's fine. Unexpectedly, Willow turned around and slapped me hard, roaring, Silas Sterling, why did you hit him? If it's because of that video, Stella is still young, and she didn't do it on purpose. Besides, who told Dahlia to snatch her doll? Who could have imagined that a child's conflict would turn into this situation? I looked at the indignant Willow in shock. If I hadn't watched the child being carried out of the delivery room with my own eyes, I would have really doubted whether Dahlia was her own daughter. Willow, I'm fine. Don't worry. I was a little impulsive, but I can't help it. This is about my daughter. Willow shook her head vigorously, choked with tears. You don't have to say it, I understand. I'm also a mother, and I understand your feelings. Looking at me, her eyes sharpened and she said sternly, Why did you block me? That's very impolite. As Dahlia's mother, I hope you won't pursue this matter any further. Stella is just a child. Why can't you be more magnanimous? Her words made me laugh in anger. I didn't look at her again and went straight to the police saying, I didn't lay a hand on him, so this doesn't count as a mutual fight. I won't mediate. Vaughn panicked and shouted that I had posted Stella's photos online, not protecting the privacy of a minor. Your own child is gone, so you want my child to be in this situation too. If you had stopped Dahlia in time when she ran out, none of this would have happened. Seeing the two of them making such outrageous statements, I couldn't be bothered to continue arguing and left after giving my statement. Vaughn was detained at the detention center. Willow followed me and demanded, Silas Sterling, what exactly do you want to stop bothering us? I, as a mother, have forgiven her. What's the point of you clinging on? I smirked, saying calmly, I have plenty of time. Unlike you and Director Vaughn, who make millions every minute, I have time to waste. With you. I admit that I also have some responsibility for Dahlia's accident, but I won't let go of the person who actually hurt her. Willow glared at me fiercely, gritting her teeth. I'd like to see what waves a has-been like you can make. A video of Vaughn hitting me at the cafe was posted online by a passerby, and someone revealed that the handbag was full of paper money, roughly estimated to be $500,000. It seems that Director Lancaster's daughter really did push Silas Sterling's daughter. She's so vengeful at such a young age. It's scary. Lancaster's stock has plummeted in the past 2 days. It seems that the news of Vaughn's detention is true. Everything on their side was a mess. Willow was buying water armies to whitewash Vaughn, but it was to no avail. Just when I thought this matter would make progress, Willow brought Stella to me. Without saying a word, Stella knelt in front of me, crying and shouting, "Uncle, I'm sorry. I just wanted to play with Dahlia at the time. I didn't expect her to run onto the road with just a gentle push. I didn't do it on purpose. Please ask the police to release my dad." With that, she gave me 2 loud kowtows, causing her head to bleed instantly. Stella's actions shocked me into taking 2 steps back, but she crawled towards me on her knees, grabbing my pant leg tightly. "Uncle, please forgive my dad and Aunt Willow. If you don't feel relieved, then I'll give my life for Dahlia's. I'll give it back to Dahlia." With that, she immediately got up and ran to the side of the road before I could react. The next second, a speeding car hit Stella, sending her flying. This scene was exactly the same as when Dahlia was hit. I stood there in a daze until I heard the sound of an ambulance. Willow lay on Stella, crying and howling. She was covered in blood, which was very shocking. Seeing the onlookers pointing at me, looking at me with disgust, my heart sank. I didn't expect this to happen, so I could only send the child to the hospital first. The first thing Vaughn did when he came out of the detention center was rush to our company, demanding that I be handed over. "Silas Sterling, get out here. You caused my daughter to have disabled legs. She can only sit in a wheelchair for the rest of her life." After receiving the news, I rushed down from the building and said impatiently, "What are you shouting about? You're also a CEO. Can you pay attention to your image? Let me remind you, it was Willow who brought your daughter to me." Before I could react, she rushed out. Vaughn's eyes were bloodshot, and he roared loudly, "Shut up! If you hadn't posted Stella online, how would I have found you, let alone hit you? All of this is because of you. I won't let you go." With that, he rushed towards me angrily and was about to hit me with his fist when I grabbed his wrist and said in a deep voice, "Director Lancaster, do you still want to go back to that place? I advise you to ask Willow carefully. In short, this matter has nothing to do with me. However, out of humanitarianism, I will give you some money. Don't think it's too little." Vaughn was so angry that his face was red. I was about to continue to comfort him when Willow's voice came from behind. "Silas Sterling, let go of him. You sent Vaughn to the police station just to take care of Stella while he wasn't around? I kindly took her to apologize to you, but you spoke rudely and pushed the child to the brink of despair." I sighed helplessly. I really underestimated Willow's ability to distort the facts. It was obvious that she had taught it. "Say whatever you want. Otherwise, call the police." Vaughn laughed coldly and shook off my arm hard, pointing at me and saying, "Do you think I'm that stupid? Sending you in will only protect you. I want you to wish you were dead but be unable to die. Only then will there be a trace of comfort in Stella's heart." Vaughn acted quickly. The next day, I was notified to suspend all work and go home to wait for notification. Andy sighed deeply and said helplessly, "Old Silas, why don't you lower your head and apologize to Director Lancaster? After all, his child has become like that." I snorted coldly, not caring at all. I'm obviously the victim. His daughter ran onto the road herself. All of this has nothing to do with me. Why should I apologize? Taking advantage of the rest time, I planned to see Dahlia. When I arrived at the cemetery, I was stunned. The scattered dirt told me that Dahlia's urn was gone. My hands trembled as I called Vaughn, and he answered in seconds. It seems you've discovered the surprise I prepared for you. How is it? Do you like it? I tried to calm myself down, pretending to be calm, and said, Director Lancaster, what's the point of taking my daughter's ashes? I think this feng shui is good, so there's no need to bother Director Lancaster. Vaughn laughed for a long time after hearing this, gritting his teeth and saying, If you dare to call the police, I'll immediately flush half of your daughter's ashes down the toilet and pour half into the pig pen. Hearing his words, my breathing stopped instantly, my mind went blank, and my voice trembled. What do I have to do to get it back? Don't joke about the child's ashes. If you have anything, just come at me. You publicly declare that my daughter had nothing to do with your daughter's death, divorce Willow, and leave with nothing. The next day, I issued a statement on the internet, saying that my daughter's death had nothing to do with Vaughn's daughter and that I had misunderstood. Instantly, the abuse on the internet flooded towards me, all work was suspended, and the company told me to take a good rest at home first. After returning home, I immediately called Vaughn, suppressing my anger, and said, I said what you asked me to say. Now give me back Dahlia's ashes. The man on the other side chuckled and said calmly, I want you to come to the hospital now, kneel down to Stella, kowtow to admit your mistake, and after you do that, I'll return it to you. Without saying a word, I agreed and rushed to the hospital immediately. Just as I walked into the ward, before I could react, I was punched hard in the stomach, and the pain made me break out in a cold sweat. Silas Sterling, you're just a small actor. What right do you have to challenge me? Even if my daughter pushed your daughter, so what? Who told her to dare to snatch things from my daughter? She was looking for death. At this time, his daughter Stella sat up and walked up to me casually, mocking, Uncle, why do you have to keep pestering me? In the end, you're just empty-handed. Your wife is about to become my new mother. Your daughter is dead. You might as well just die. With that, she picked up the vase on the table and smashed it hard on my knee, forcing me to stagger to the ground on my knees. Uncle Silas, you have to be sincere when you admit your mistake, or you don't want your daughter's ashes anymore? My clenched hands hung down weakly. The heaviness in my chest made it almost impossible for me to breathe. After a long silence, I said slowly, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please return my daughter's ashes to me. Daddy, look, this person looks like a dog. Can you make him bark? Vaughn pinched her face and said softly, Forget it. You still have to have a kind heart when dealing with this kind of person. Let's return the urn to him. Stella unwillingly threw the urn in front of me, sneering, Here, I'll return it to you. I really don't know what's the point of wanting an empty box. I looked at the clean urn in front of me in disbelief, with nothing inside, and said through gritted teeth, Where are my daughter's ashes? Oh, they're gone. Or you can go to the pig pen and see if there's any left. I picked up the urn and hugged it tightly in my arms. Without saying a word, I looked at them deeply and limped out. Standing at the gate of the hospital, I looked down at the box that used to contain Dahlia and murmured, Dahlia, don't worry, Dad won't let you be wronged. Those people, I will make them pay. After returning home, I applied for a small account and told the well-known paparazzi in the circle that Stella was not injured. Those people worked very efficiently. The next day, they squatted down to Vaughn, who was secretly taking his daughter away from the side door of the hospital, and took photos and videos. They knew Vaughn's methods, so they preemptively published these on the internet. Soon, the fake news that the director's daughter was injured went on a trending search, and many netizens questioned Vaughn in the comments section about the purpose of spreading false news. Vaughn responded to these things after a long time, saying that he was forced to do so. I'm also a father. I can't bear to see my daughter kowtow to others for some unfounded things. Even if my daughter wasn't injured, she was still greatly stimulated mentally and is now receiving psychological treatment. I smirked and directly put the audio recorded at the hospital that day on the internet. Then I think all of this is reasonable. Your daughter's psychology was stimulated. So you want to pour my daughter's ashes into a dog bowl and let the dog eat them? Vaughn and Stella's words were recorded clearly, and netizens also checked that there was no trace of audio editing. This is too disgusting. If the boss of Lancaster is so bad, who can trust his products? Is his daughter a demon? She can do such cruel things. Silas Sterling, I misunderstood you before. I'll buy your merchandise and support you immediately. Overnight, Lancaster Group's stock plummeted, and many partners would rather breach the contract than cooperate with Lancaster again. Vaughn couldn't hold back this time and asked to meet me privately. I did this wrong. You can compensate me in any way. You can have Lancaster's shares if you want. The man who used to be arrogant in front of me is now finally lowering his eyebrows and eyes, fearing to anger me again. I lifted my eyelids and swept over the little girl who was shivering behind him and said casually, "Stella, come here. Tell Uncle, did you push Dahlia on purpose? Did you take the doll from her hand on purpose?" Stella's face was covered with handprints, and her eyes were full of horror as she looked at me. She must have been taught a lesson by Vaughn before she came. Uncle Aunt Willow said that it was for me and told me to take it from Dahlia's hand. Later, she also said that Dahlia was bullying me and I should pay her back. I couldn't believe that Willow would teach other people's children to harm her own children. I said in a deep voice, "Stella, if you lie, I'll tell the police to arrest you." As soon as she said this, Stella burst into tears, shouting at the top of her voice, "These are all things you adults taught me to do. Why do you want me to apologize?" Aunt Willow told me to fight back, and Dad told me to throw Dahlia's ashes into the pig pen. I smiled coldly, took out my phone, and said loudly, "I believe everyone has heard what Stella said clearly. Even if they didn't directly cause my daughter's accident, they also have a certain responsibility." Vaughn realized that I was broadcasting live. His face turned pale, and he wanted to grab the phone but tripped to the ground. I slowly walked up to him, turned the phone camera over, and looked at him expressionlessly, saying, "Vaughn Lancaster, do you have anything to explain? If you want to marry Willow, you can tell me directly, instead of hurting my child." Vaughn's face was ashen, and he couldn't say a word. That night, the police took our group back to the police station. After questioning, Stella needed to be sent to the juvenile detention center, and Vaughn and Willow needed to pay me compensation. "Heh, you've been making trouble for so long just to get money. Silas Sterling, are you eating your daughter's human blood bun?" Willow took Vaughn's arm and gave me a disdainful look, and then cared a lot about Vaughn's health. I sneered, mocking, "Your director, Vaughn, just told me to return you to me. I didn't expect that in his eyes you were just an item." Willow glared at me fiercely and was about to speak when Vaughn interrupted her. He pushed Willow's hand away hard and blamed her impatiently. "I knew I shouldn't have gotten involved with you. Now it's making me stink, and my daughter has to go to the juvenile detention center. Are you a jinx?" Willow opened her mouth slightly and looked at the man in front of her in disbelief, asking, "I've given so much for you, and my daughter is gone. Why are you treating me like this? There's no reason not to eat free food. Besides, that child wasn't your and his own. When the person is gone, the evidence is gone." After hearing what he said, Willow's face turned pale, and she didn't dare to look up at me at all. I took a deep breath, enduring the urge to hit someone, and said through gritted teeth, "Is Dahlia my child?" Willow bit her lip and shouted, "Yes, she's not your child." I was stunned, and for a moment I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My legs walked out uncontrollably, aimlessly wandering on the street. I suffered all kinds of humiliation on the way to seek justice for Dahlia, but now they tell me that she is not my own child. It's extremely ridiculous. Just when I was planning not to continue entangled with them, Dahlia's face suddenly appeared in my mind, and I also heard Dahlia calling me Daddy sweetly. Instantly, I didn't care whether she was my child or not. I just wanted to punish the people who had hurt her. Vaughn sent me a message at this time, which read, "The child is the child of Willow's boss, because the other person has a wife, so she dared not say it." I heard that Willow's boss was able to build his career on his wife's family, and the couple had been in love for many years but didn't have a child. His wife's methods were always vicious, so Willow was probably afraid. However, I didn't understand why Vaughn wanted to tell me. After thinking about it, there was only one possibility, and that was to watch us fight and he get the benefits. I smiled coldly, said, "Thank you," and went straight to Willow's Wong group. When I arrived, I asked the front desk to call President Wong. Just say Willow's child to him. Sure enough, President Wong let me in immediately, without the slightest hesitation. "Mr. Sterling, what do you mean by that?" President Wang looked at me vigilantly, fearing that I would do something that would be detrimental to him. I raised the corners of my mouth slightly and said respectfully to him, "Willow's child is your child and hers, not mine." President Wang was stunned immediately, his eyes full of disbelief. Then his expression sank, and he asked back, "Why are you saying that that's my child? I'm loyal to my wife." "Yes, President Wang, you were fortunate enough to marry a wife with a prominent family background, and you used the light of your father-in-law's family to rise up, but unfortunately your wife can't have children." "Enough. What exactly do you want to say? Don't say these nonsense things anymore." I sat down slowly and said unhurriedly, "Willow is not good to your child at all. This time, Dahlia's accidental death is also inseparable from her. This woman doesn't want her own flesh and blood in order to pursue her own feelings. It's better to have given you to raise her earlier." President Wang's face was already livid when he heard this, and he was exuding anger all over his body. I sighed slightly and continued, "That child is very sensible and filial to her parents. It's a pity that Willow vented all her dissatisfaction on the child, and in the end she didn't even let her mother hug her." As soon as I finished speaking, President Wang picked up the display on the table and smashed it hard on the ground, roaring, "I won't let go of this bitch Willow. That's my child. Let her ruin her. And you can't even take care of a child." I smiled bitterly and said softly, "I'm a small has-been. How can I touch her and Vaughn? I've tried my best, and as a result, Dahlia was reduced to ashes by them." President Wang stood up abruptly and strode out of the office. Seeing that his reaction was so intense, I bet correctly. That night, Willow was taken away for investigation on suspicion of embezzling public funds and evading taxes, and Lancaster Group was even worse, suspected of laundering money for illegal elements. After learning this news, I was slightly relieved. In the end, I still needed to borrow other people's hands. In the end, Willow was sentenced to 18 years, and Vaughn was sentenced to life imprisonment. The two of them can be reunited in prison. I applied to the prison, wanting to meet Willow one last time. She was much haggard after a few days, but her eyes were still full of disdain when she looked at me. I looked at her quietly for a while and said softly, "If you don't love me, why did you marry me?" She sneered disdainfully and said in a strange voice, "Because you're easy to handle. You can be coaxed into taking care of the family with a few words. Just be a free nanny." I was stunned, and then laughed loudly, took out the prepared divorce agreement, and handed it to her. "Sign it, I don't want you now." For some reason, a trace of panic flashed across her face, and then she asked me calmly, "Silas Sterling, do you really not want to be with me anymore? I've been with you for so many years. Even if there's no credit, there's hard work. Well, I wish I could sentence you to death. That way you can go to Dahlia and apologize, so you can go with peace of mind." When I left, I heard Willow's desperate roars behind me, but my heart was without waves. Stepping out of the prison gate, I took a deep breath of fresh air. "Mr. Sterling, let's go. The crew is waiting for you." Andy sat in the car and waved to me. I smiled slightly and nodded to him, then looked at the sky in the distance. "Dahlia, in this life you are my daughter, and in the next life you will still be my daughter."